Hello mathematicians, welcome back to Number Corner. For Number Corner today, we are going to take a closer look at some of the markers on our April calendar grid. Take a look at the first 4 calendar markers for this month. Now we have been talking about Raphael and his dad building a garden bed to plant vegetables. Raphael and his dad decided to build some more rectangular raised beds, 4 in all. These are the pictures of the 4 beds viewed from the top instead of from the side. This is what we call a bird's eye view, meaning that this is the way we would see the garden beds if we were looking down at them like a bird might as they fly above. Take a moment to look at the markers and think about what you notice. Now you may have noticed a few different things. Some of the beds on the markers are split or divided into different parts. We can see that in marker 1, marker 2, and marker 3. Marker 4 looks like it's one whole garden bed. You may also have noticed that the parts are different shapes. You may also have noticed that some of the parts are smaller than the other parts. There are other things you could have noticed as well. Here are some other things we can think about as we're looking at these different calendar markers. Now, some of the calendar markers this month will be whole things divided into parts. If the marker or the garden bed on the marker is divided into 4, 3, or 2 parts, think about what the name of each part would be. Show a connection if this is what you were thinking. On the first calendar marker, our garden bed is split or divided into 4 parts. Each part is 1/4. On our second calendar marker, the garden bed is divided into 3 parts. Each part is 1/3. On our third calendar marker, the garden bed is in 2 parts. Each part is 1/2. How does the size of each compare to the whole garden bed on marker 4? You may be thinking a few different things. If we look at the first calendar marker, well, we need all 4 parts to be the same size as our whole. Each part is 1/4 of the whole. If we're looking at our second marker, well, we would need all 3 parts to be the same size as our whole. 3/3 is the same as a whole. If we're looking at our third calendar marker, we need both parts. Each part of the half together makes the whole. Let's look at our fourths over here and our halves over here. How do the fourths and the halves compare? thinking about the fourths. How many fourths would you need to be the same size as 1/2? Show a connection if you're thinking that you need 2/4 to be the same size as 1/2. Yeah, that's good thinking. You could take these two pieces, move them over here, and they'd fit in this space. It's the same. Now, as we divide this garden bed into fewer and fewer pieces, what's happening to the size of those pieces? Let's think about how many parts each garden bed is divided into. When we have 4 parts, is each part the same size as when we have 3 parts? Is this piece the same as this piece? Well, what about our halves? Is this piece the same as our third? Well, we know the whole piece, this whole piece is not the same size as 1/2. Let's kind of look backwards. Think about what's happening to the garden bed as we split it in half, and then into thirds, and then into fourths. Show a connection if you're thinking, well, each piece is getting smaller. That's good thinking. Now that we've talked a little bit more about how we can look at all of our calendar markers and how they change, let's write down some of our observations. You may be talking about your observations in your calendar update videos too, so some of this may be repeated, but that's okay. Now let's think about our garden bed. Our garden bed is one whole thing because we built that, or Raphael really built that with his dad. He built one garden bed to start with. So when we think about our garden bed and dividing it into smaller pieces, we're really thinking about one whole piece, one whole garden bed, one whole rectangle. Now let's think a little more about our next column. When we say how many, we're really thinking about how many parts do we have? How many parts are in this whole piece? Well, if we're looking at the first day of the month, we're seeing 4 parts. For the second day of the month, we're seeing 3 parts. For the third day of the month, we see 2 parts. And on the fourth day, we see our whole 1 part. That's the whole. A few other observations that we have, that we talked about, may look a little something like this. For the first day, we can see that we have our garden bed in 4 parts. For the second day, April 2nd, well, we can see that each of our 3 parts is really 1/3. We talked a little bit about fourths, thirds, halves, and the whole. We also talked a bit on the third that we noticed 1/2 plus another half really equals 1 whole. And then when we're looking at the fourth day of the month, April 4th, well, that's our whole. The bed isn't split up at all. Now that we've talked about some observations together, your job is to go into Seesaw and share with your teacher some of your observations. Maybe you've noticed similar things that we noticed in the video. Maybe you were thinking, wow, I noticed this and we didn't talk about it at all. Share that with your teacher. Great work today, mathematicians. I will see you back next time for Number Corner.